Good day, everyone. I am Emeradano Alak of University of Southern Philippines Foundation, Lahog, Cebu City. I will be presenting to you the Module 2, Ethical Decision Making and Leadership. Ethical decision making in leadership refers to the process of making choices and taking actions that are morally sound, just, and in alignment with a set of ethical principles and values. It is a crucial aspect of leadership that emphasizes integrity, responsibility, and the well being of all stakeholders involved. Let us proceed to the ethical dilemmas in educational leadership. What is ethical dilemma? Ethical dilemmas in education are complex situations that educators, administrators, and other stakeholders within the educational system face when they encounter conflicting moral principles or values in their roles. Let me give you an example of a scenario in the school as one of the ethical dilemmas in education. You are the principal in the middle school, and you have just been informed by your teacher that they suspect a student named Yuri may be experiencing a neglect at home. The teacher noticed that Yuri often arrives at school hungry, dirty, and tired. They also overheard Yuri mentioning that their parents are rarely at home, and when they are, there are frequent arguments and shouting. Let us proceed about the balancing ethical considerations in complex scenarios. Balancing ethical considerations in complex scenarios can be challenging as different ethical modes and approaches may lead to different answers. It is important to establish a systematic process for ethical decision making, considering the potential impacts on stakeholders, society, and the environment. Ultimately, ethical decision making involves communication and negotiation between individuals and groups in the community around issue of values, and it's possible for individual of integrity to hold widely different, even contradictory views in relation to ethical questions. There are ways to solve complex scenarios or dilemmas in education. The first one is the duty of care. The primary ethical consideration is the duty of care for the student's well-being. As an educational leader, you have a moral and legal obligation to ensure the safety and welfare of your students. The second one is the confidentiality. Balancing the teacher's concern with the need to maintain the privacy and confidentiality of students and their families is essential. You must respect the sensitive nature of information. The third one is the informed decision making. Ethical decision making involves collecting all available information to make an informed judgment. You need to gather more information to substantiate the suspicion of neglect. And the last one is the child welfare and reporting. If the suspicion of neglect is substantiated, there is a legal and ethical obligation to report it to the appropriate child protective services or authorities as mandated by law. However, in the absence of concrete evidence, making a false report could harm the family and damage the trust between the school and parents. So the school must need a proper investigation before creating a judgment to the neglect child. Here is a decision-making model. What is decision-making model? It is the approaches or frameworks that help individuals and organizations make choices in a manner that considers the moral implications and aligns with personal values and organizational principles. The first one is a stakeholder. They play a crucial role in ethical decision making, as they are individuals or groups who have vested interest or affected by the decisions made by an individual, organization, or institution. Stakeholders are not only directly impacted by decisions, but also bring diverse perspectives and values to the decision-making process. Ethical decision-making that actively involves stakeholders is more likely to be comprehensive, fair, and socially responsible, contributing to the well-being of individuals, organizations, and society as a whole. The next one is the decision makers. They play a central and critical role in ethical decision-making processes. Their actions and choices shape the ethical culture of an organization or guide to an individual behavior. In summary, the role of decision makers in ethical decision making is multifaceted and involves leadership, responsibility, and accountability, and a commitment to upholding ethical standards. Ethical decision makers, they contribute significantly to the development of a positive ethical culture within an organization. The next to discuss about the ethical decision-making model is the context. It refers to the specific circumstances, conditions, and environment surrounding an ethical dilemma, while facts are the objective information relevant to the situation. Context provides a framework for understanding the ethical issue at hand. Facts contribute to a clearer picture of the situation, helping decision makers comprehend the complexities and nuances involved in the dilemma. Context and facts are integral to ethical decision making, providing the necessary information and understanding for individuals and organizations to navigate complex ethical dilemmas and make choices aligned with ethical principles and values. In ethical decision making, an alternative action, it refers to an alternative course of an action or choice that a decision maker can consider when faced with an ethical dilemma. It involves exploring options beyond the initially considered or default choice. Identifying and evaluating alternate actions is a crucial step in the decision-making process, as it allows decision makers to assess various possibilities and choose the one that aligns best with ethical principles and values. Considering alternate actions is essential because it encourages a more thorough examinations of the ethical dimensions of a situations and helps avoid hastily choosing the first available option. It allows decision makers to make more informed and thoughtful choices, ultimately leading to the ethical behavior and responsible decision making. Evaluating impacts or negotiations in ethical decision making. It involves assessing the potential consequences of various choices on individuals, groups, organizations, and the society as a whole. It is a crucial step in the decision making process as it helps decision makers consider the ethical implications and make choices that lead to the positive outcomes and minimize harm. Be carefully evaluating impacts. Decision makers can make more informed and responsible choices that align with ethical principles and contribute to positive outcomes for individuals, organizations, and society. This process enhances the overall ethical quality of decision making and promotes a more just and sustainable world. In ethical decision making, picking the optimal. It refers to selecting the most favorable or advantageous course of action among the available options based on ethical considerations. The term optimal implies choosing the option that best aligns with ethical principles, values, and the desired outcomes while minimizing negative consequences. Choosing the optimal option in ethical decision making is about making choices and not only adhere to ethical principles but also lead to positive outcomes for individuals, organizations, and society. It requires careful consideration, a commitment to ethical values, and a willingness to address complex dilemmas responsibly. At this point, let us discuss and consider some ethical decision making approaches. And number one is the utilitarian approach. This approach focuses on determining the best overall consequences of each course of action, aiming to produce the greatest benefits and the least harm. The second one is the rights approach. This approach is based on the belief that individuals have the ability to make their decisions freely and emphasizes the importance of respecting everyone's moral rights. The third one is the fairness or justice approach. This approach considers which course of action treats everyone fairly and does not show favoritism and discrimination. The fourth one is the common good approach. This approach asks whether a course of action advances the common good considering the impact on both the individual and the community. It encourages reflection on the type of society we want to become and how to achieve. The fifth one is the virtue approach. This approach focuses on the developing moral virtues and considers which course of action best aligns with the development of humanity and the full potential of our moral selves. Why do we need to consider to manage the conflicts of interest and transparency? It is very essential to ensure ethical decision making and maintain public trust. Regulating conflicts of interest is essential to the development of accountable and scrupulous procedures in decision making. And three major areas should be covered by conflict of interest regulation: defining conflicts of interest, managing conflicts of interest, and dealing with the parent potential and actual conflicts of interest. I am going to share the successful approaches to managing conflicts of interest. Number one, establishing independent committees. It is a common approach in managing conflicts of interest within organizations. Conflict of interest occurs when an individual's or personal interest or affiliation could potentially compromise their objectivity, judgment, or decision making in a professional setting. Independent committees are designed to provide an unbiased and impartial evaluation of situations where conflicts of interest may arise. The second one is the implementing transparency measures. It is a crucial approach in managing conflicts of interest within organizations. Transparency is a practice of openly sharing information about decision-making processes, potential conflicts, and actions taken to address those conflicts. This approach helps build trust among stakeholders and demonstrates a commitment to ethical governance. The third one is adapting a code of conduct. Is a fundamental and effective approach in managing conflicts of interest within organization. A code of conduct is a set of ethical guidelines and principles that outline expected behavior and standards for individuals within an organization or in the school. By explicitly addressing conflicts of interest in a code of conduct, organizations can provide clear guidance how to identify, disclose, and manage such conflicts. The fourth one is promoting ethical decision making. It is a central and proactive approach in managing conflicts of interest within the school. This strategy emphasizes fostering culture that prioritizes ethical considerations, values integrity, and guides in individuals in making decisions aligned with ethical principles. And the last one is a case study. It is a valuable method in managing conflicts of interest as it allows organization to analyze real or hypothetical scenarios, apply ethical principles, and develop strategies for addressing conflicts. A case study typically presents a detailed narrative of a situation, often involving ethical dilemmas, and invites individuals or teams to critically evaluate the circumstances and propose ethical solutions. And that was all my topic presented. Thank you so much, classmates, for the very best engagement about this course. And thank you so much to our professor, the very approachable and brainy Doc Aaron Montoya Dinawanaw, for believing us that we can do this and make this video output.